Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this series of interview hosted by Finboot. My name is Alvaro Llobet, and I am the head of product. And today, here, we are going to discuss about sustainability, regulation, and many interesting topics that you would like to hear. With me here today, I have Flavia Sales, our marketing manager here at Finboot.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I know that for you, this interview that we are going to speak about EUDR, complex regulations, and EU and sustainability goes beyond your professional aspect. You are really interested and into the topic. Why is that?
Well, as you know, I'm Brazilian. So Brazil is known for its beautiful forest and natural resource. But despite that, I think that we are far away from be able to protect this natural resource. For example, Amazonia is the lungs of the world. And besides that, we have most of the part of fresh water. It's in Brazil, the reserves. But even though we have this natural resource, we are suffering with a lot of deforestation. For instance, 2022, Brazil had an increase of 36% of deforestation, and this is a huge problem. So that's why, as a personal point of view, I think this is a urgent matter that we should be talking about.
So you have spoken about fresh water, you have spoken about Amazonia, you have spoken about the importance of, I think, natural resources at the end for our survival as a species. So I think that the European Union have been implementing both regulations, and also there's been pressure to large enterprises to bring, I think that most of it, supply chain transparency, no? And that is, we all know, that is a crucial aspect for decarbonization. Can you get more into that topic? Can you explain us a little bit why and your opinions of it?
Yeah, sure. I think, as you said, the European is very focused on sustainability practice, and they are leading the way, all the regulations around that. And this is pushing companies to be more proactive in focus sustainability practice in their supply chains, because all these products we need, they are made from natural resource, right? And this is causing a lot of climate impact in our world. And that's why we have a lot of regulations, focus supply chains. And digital traceability, as you said, is a very important part of that, because if we don't know the origin of this raw material, and if we don't know what is happened in this value chain with that product, with that raw material during the process, and if we don't know what happened after that, for example, the waste, how to recycle that, it's impossible for us as consumers to learn and to improve how to produce these more sustainable products. So I think all the regulations, of course, they always come from pressure of governments and and people. As you said, it's needed for us, this all the natural resource. So without that, we don't have a planet to live in. So this pressures is pushing companies to having this transparency in their supply chain. And this involves not only their own supply chain, but all the stakeholders of this value chain.
I think that is a really interesting topic to discuss. Before we focus so much on the part of operational, how we are going to make this a reality, and at the end, how technology can enable this, you were speaking to me before about data, and that we know that is a very important part of it, because what have become a realization to many of us is that the global crisis that we are suffering is a reality by numbers, no? So I know you have some information around it. Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, of course. Let's see if I remember all the numbers, as we mentioned before. Yeah, as you see, I think the problem is because we started seeing a lot of deforestation in the world. And I explained to you earlier that Brazil and other countries in Latin America suffers a huge increase. The numbers from 2023 shows that at every 1 minute, at least 10 football fields, it's like deforested.
Wow.
So
that's a really
per
big
minute,
number.
It's a lot.
That's a really big number.
And what we can see that normally this corresponds to 10% of gas emissions globally. And I also like to point it out that agriculture is one of the most responsible for that reforestation. In case of Brazil, 90% of deforestation comes from agriculture. Of course, we need to eat, but we need to be more conscious about that.
So now that we have spoken about it, and that can make us understand and realize the impact that we are having, maybe we can speak on how can we change it, how we can make a difference. I think that the European Union is taking an approach that at the end is kind of making or regulation or trying to pressure in some different ways enterprises, companies,
definitely,
to be able to change the way they operate so that they are more conscious of the impact that they are having, no? And I think that they are putting in place many different regulations that are making a lot of sense. We are going to speak about them in a moment, but what I would like to touch on is, as we think technology is going to be an enabler for making or the sustainability path a reality, or for also enhancing regulations. Can you speak maybe a little bit about what technologies are there, like that companies could use for beginning or continuing this path towards sustainability?
Yeah, of course. I think this is a very interesting topic because first we are a technology company and I think both of us are very keen on technology. So as you said, the European, it's focused on some regulations, and from what I've read, a lot of them, and I can see that it's something very similar in all of them. They are very interesting to track the production of products within their supply chain. So in order to be able to do that, of course, you need a solution, a technology that can provide you that transparency and in a way that is secure, in a way that is shareable, in a way that's tamper-proof. So there's a lot of technology, of course, of traceability that can help you as a company to track all the way of your product from raw materials to finished goods. But it's important to notice that some of them are better than others. I think that if you have a solution to implement this traceability, and then you can, of course, use that information that have been collected to create, for example, digital products passports. This is one of the technologies and solutions that has been recommended by the European Commission. It's called DPP, Digital Product Passport. It's information regarding your product. Also, because you are collecting this information, you can track the emissions of this product and, of course, offset these emissions as well. Also, depending on the solution, because we know that we have different scopes. We have scope 1, we have scope 2, scope 3. There's different kind of emissions to be tracked. Some are more easier than others, but this traceability can be also be done, for example, in the aspect of chemical industry, for example, or fuel. Using mass balance is another way of digital traceability, and that you can use as well to measure if the product is really sustainable or not, right? So there's a lot of applications of digital tools. One of them is, as we are speaking, digital traceability, and you can use for creating digital product passports to track emissions, to have this mass balance approach. So I think these are some of the other ones.
I agree with you. In fact, what I think is that linking it into the previous question also, like what we are seeing is that the European Union believes that data is what is going to drive sustainability and I think awareness around sustainability,
Yep.
So putting digitalization and technology at the center, what gives both regulators and also companies is the clear understanding of what we are doing.
Yeah, visibility.
Exactly. So at the end, we can understand where products are coming from, where are they going, the product life cycle, the waste associated, and then we can start to understand the impact that that is having. So it's the same rationale as we were saying before. If we can see, measure things, then we are able and we are empowering people to change things.
To decide which products to choose. And
Exactly.
in the company side, you can see areas of improvement as well.
Exactly. And then driving maybe the question, we have been speaking a lot about regulations, but can you give us examples of which regulations are there? Like what are the ones that are coming more soon? What are the ones that are already in place?
Yeah, of course. I mentioned the DPP, the Digital Product Passport, is one of the requirements that the eco-design regulations from the European Commission, it's in place already. To be honest, I think it starts tomorrow. So the second updated version of that. And there is obligation of companies to provide digital product passports. And this includes a range of products. For example, batteries. I mean, there is no way of having a more sustainable world without energy transition. And we are very aware that without focus on electrification of things, it's very difficult to do that. And battery is very important to do that. So this eco-design regulations focus on a lot of products, including batteries. There's other regulations focusing on metals, and specifically because some of them you use for batteries, right? So it's all connected, and I think that all the regulations they are all under our umbrella. It's called the Green Deal in Europe, and is a plan, and just beneath this, under this plan from the European, we have different arms and legs. They are designing one of them. We have CBAN. CBAN is a mechanism, for example, to make more fair the trade with companies that are not in Europe, just to compensate their emissions when they make their product, because it's a way to protect the European companies against those doesn't have that much sustainability regulations around that. So also, I think we have the CS3D is another regulation that is very important. CSRD is another one that is coming. The deadline is the end of this year, and companies need to report their sustainability, and this coming at this year as well. I remember the EUDR is a new one. We're talking about deforestation at the beginning of the conversation, and the EUDR is just focused on is the European deforestation regulation, and it's been placed since 2023, but the deadline of the first reports are the end of this year. For big companies, and for small companies to, I think, is the half of next year, June or July of 2025. But so for the large companies, at the end of this year, they have at least two big regulations, the CBAN and the EUDR. So, and there's a lot of other regulations in place already. United States, they have their own regulations, who have especially focused on energy, and other countries as well. So yes, a lot of regulations, and we need to be prepared.
That seems like a very tight timeline, to be honest.
It is. It's less than 6 months. So if you don't have a plan already, you should.
You should. Definitely you should.
Because the impact is, if you don't have this ready to comply in December 2024, you have fines, you have penalties, you have the brand, image damage. So a lot of bad consequences.
And now that you mention penalties, I think that there's very interesting to mention, because I see that many times when we talk about regulation, like we don't know how that is going to be enhanced. So I think, and I find it interesting, because many of the times when we speak, from a consumer facing aspect about the regulations and how this is going to be enhanced, we don't see the penalties behind it. And specifically, for example, with EUDR, penalties can be very, very high. We are speaking that, and I would need to double check this, but they can get into 4% of the revenue market that you are generating with that products that you are consuming. So that is a really big fine for large enterprises. And that also, if you are constantly not complying with regulation, they can ban you from operating in the European Union with those products and many others. So what we are seeing is that they are enhancing really with a really powerful plans these regulations. About EUDR, I would like to speak a little bit more around it, because I think it's a really interesting regulation. When maybe a couple of 3 years ago, we were seeing that we were looking about new products and low carbon products. Many of the products that were at the end using as a substitute, for carbon products, or for products that were conceived more as contaminant, or that were creating more pollution, have been changed by palm oil or different types of oil, coconut oil, in industrial processes. That was great, but what we saw is what you were mentioning before. This, at the end, is always a balance. If we are starting to use palm oil or coconut oil, what we are seeing then is that we have deforestation associated. And one of the things that I think that the European Union is trying to implement, and I think is very interesting, is that it's not only about what we are consuming here, but also where are we getting those products from? Are we getting those products from Brazil? Are we getting it from Indonesia? At the end, it's not only understanding that the impact is local, but that supply chains are global. And if we are extracting products from other parts of the world, we should be responsible also of that sourcing, and understanding that is not generating a negative impact in
someone else.
Exactly. In someone else's country at the end. So we are looking into sustainability, but regionally. And I think that the European Union is trying to enhance new policies and new regulations on a global basis. I know, as you said, it's a very tight timeline. Can you explain us a little bit of what are the concerns or next steps, or if you can enter a little bit more into the EUDR regulation?
The deforestation issue is not something that is local and needs everyone to be on board. So if I'm worried about only my forest, it's not enough. And you gave some examples of commodities that are being used for more sustainable products, but they impact someone else's country, or they also have these negative impacts if they are not if you're not paying attention to that. And the EUDR comes exactly to bring this up and try to have more conscience around that. So a lot of commodities will be impacted on the EUDR. For example, you mentioned already the palm oil, but also coffee, cacao, and other commodities as well. So a lot of companies that use these commodities will be impacted by the EUDR. For example, the oil and gas industry, they use these materials, including waste, to create biofuels, right? Food industry, they use cacao, they use coffee, they use other products that are on the list of the EUDR, and they will be impacted as well. And this will impact the consumers as well. Fashion industry, we have leather, we have clothing and shoes that use a lot of products from the EUDR. It will be regulated by EUDR. So I think the first thing that the company should be doing is, first, am I using one of the products that has been listed on the EUDR? And consider that you have to prepare your supply chain. Not only you, but all your suppliers need to be on board, and you need to start talking to them if you haven't yet, to be prepared, because they need to collect information on these commodities if they are not from the forested areas. Of course, you can use a lot of technologies. We were talking about that before. Geolocalization is very important at the EUDR for compliance. And you need all this traceability to track what you're doing with that commodity as well. So if you're a company from Brazil, or if you're a company on the European area, doesn't matter. If you are using some of these commodities that is linked to deforestation, you need to prove that is not from deforestation areas. So talking to your supply chain, collecting data, and prepare your supply chain for comply, I think is the most relevant thing at this point. And this is also one part of the problem, the concerns around the EUDR, because you have this fear of supply chain being affected, as happening before in the COVID area, right? We saw that a lot of displacement on supply chain impacted business, but the EUDR is giving you the tools to prepare. It's telling you what to do and giving you time to comply with. So as we said, we have less than 6 months if they don't change, but less than 6 months, either if they change or not. You need to be gathering this information already, talk to your suppliers, and start creating, they call due diligence statements. This is something like you have to prepare risk assessment on your the commodities and supplies, and then create a plan to mitigate those risks, right? And then when you have all this information from the geolocalization, from the deforestation areas, and to prove that the product is not linked to that, and they also comply with local regulations for each country that the product is produced or extracted from, and the due diligence, you gather all that, and you need to send it to a system provided by the European Commission, which is this time, it's a pilot period. And this is another concern, because everyone is like, okay, but how it will works in reality? And I think in that case, we need to wait and see how it will be. But you at least should be gathering the information already.
To be preparing around it, no?
Exactly. Because when this is available, you will be ready to upload the information you needed to. So yeah, it's a lot of things to do. And you should have a plan.
That's great. We are getting into the end of this interview. Is there any question that you would like to ask me?
Yeah, thank you. Also, I mean, I'm from marketing, but you are the head of product at Finboot. So I know that you are more aware of how our solutions can help clients not only comply with the EUDR, but other sustainability initiatives and regulations. And I would like for you to comment how our solutions are connected to all that, and how, if you can say some examples and just give us an update on that.
Sure. So first of all, I think it's very important to understand, like, how did we arrive into EUDR, regulations, sustainability. So we started tracking products at the end, no? So our solution, Marco Track and Trace, is used mostly for understanding provenance and traceability and mapping supply chain to understand where products are coming from and where are they going, no? And around that, we were gathering a lot of information around those products. And many times, information was also around sustainability. So how much CO2 are we consuming? Are we doing mass balance on a specific process to understand how much of sustainable products are we using for the creation of an end product that is going to arrive into the consumer? No, from there we started focusing a lot on digital product passports. So if we have all the life cycle of that product and we understand the history of that product, then can we bring a layer on top to share this information? And we started creating digital product passports. No, that at the end is a natural evolution into, okay, if we are doing all that, then we can start complying, for example, or sharing information around, for example, ISCC or Bureau Veritas and other kind of compliance, no, inside that product information. And our customers arrived to us and told us, hey, if you are doing all this, and at the end we have kind of a data lake of sustainability information of our customers, can we then, for example, use it for EUDR? No? And I think that there is where we started shifting a little bit our vision, and kind of, instead of seeing us as a tracking of products, we see us as an orchestrator for different needs around sustainability. No, so if you need to create a digital product passport, we have that. If you need to calculate the CO2 emissions of a product, we have that. No, if then we need to comply with EUDR, we know where our products are coming from. We can look into geolocalization. We have a lot of partners that then can check, for example, if that is deforested or not deforested, and at the end submit that into the European Union. No, so what we have created, I would say, is a kind of an holistic approach into sustainability, so that with one tool you can comply with many different requirements of, at the end, sustainability departments. No, and we want to do that as an all-in-one platform and easy to use, because at the end, as we are seeing, there are a lot of sustainability regulations coming,
and
there will be more and more. So what we are seeing is that this, if we don't facilitate it and we don't create it, or we don't make it easy for the sustainability departments and different departments across organizations
to collect and collaborate.
Exactly. If we don't make that, that is going to be a burden. That is then going to make companies don't want, or more complexity around being sustainable, because of the bureaucracy and the processes and the complexity around gathering information, submitting information, all the process. So what we want to do is minimize the complexity around the process, so that the sustainability is not around documents. Sustainability is around being ethically sourcing products, being able to share information to the consumer, being aware of the impact that we have. No? And that is what we want our customers to be focusing on, not on bureaucracy, but around making their products more sustainable.
So thank you for your explanation. Yeah, definitely. I think information is very powerful, because, as you said, when you have the information, you can use that information to comply with different regulations, and also make people make smarter decision and more sustainable decision. And companies can also create better products, more sustainable products as well. And regarding that, I think that we have a lot of contents available in your website, in your media channels. So if anyone wants to know more about that, I think they can just head out to our webpage, because we have contents regarding EUDR, other regulations as well, about digital traceability, about how Marco Track and Trace really helps company in there. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because just to make clear to everyone, no, and giving this maybe a little bit into a closing, even though we are a technology company, and that makes me a little bit proud of what we are in terms of what we also create. We only create technology content, so we create content around regulations, about how you need to comply. No, we at the end are trying to help our customers and the people that is out there to understand better how to be sustainable in the context of EUDR. No, and then I maybe giving
we offer guidance.
Exactly, guidance. Right? I think that is the word. So then, Thank you very much, Flavia, for being here. I think it was a great interview. I think we have been able to give context into sustainability, into regulations, into also a little bit who we are as a company. And also, I want to thank you, everyone, for being here, being to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for future interviews.